In a modernized Japan, we slowly pan over to our wimpy protagonist, Taosuke Rokudo, being bullied by his delinquent classmates during lunchtime. The leader of the delinquents, Linuma, has just finished toying with Rokudo by throwing all of Rokudo's lunch in his direction, forcing Rokudo to eat his whiners. Humiliated by this, Rokudo slowly went over to his friends, thinking how his role in the school is being the chew toy of the delinquents. He finally sits over with his only two friends, Hinamoto Masaru, also known as the Colonel, and Kijima Koda, who also goes by Chief. The Colonel and Chief offered their lunches to Rokudo, and our protagonist gladly thanked them for their kind gesture. Suddenly, out of nowhere, one of the girl delinquents chuckled loudly and was unknowingly showing off her juicy meat packs to the wimpy squad, and Rokudo and his squad were glazing over those thighs of hers. Tsubaki caught wind of that and screamed at the wimps to stop looking at her. Rokudo and his squad got scared and looked in the opposite direction. Linuma then asked Tsubaki what had just happened. The delinquent with the zesty meat packages then responded that they were gawking at her. Linuma lets Rokudo and his gang know to never stare at his girl again or there will be hell to pay. The wimps felt even more down after this incident. Our protagonist lets the viewer know that he deals with this every single day and that there are even more delinquents that we have yet to see. We slowly see this incident take a toll on Rokudo and his other two friends as they are huddled in one of the boys' stalls in the bathroom. Rokudo lets his fits of rage fill the bathroom as he tells his friends that it's unfair that they go through this daily. The boys then decided to blow off some steam by going over to Rokudo's house and playing some Fortnite. We pan over to Rokudo, finding a package from his dead grandfather at his house. He opens the package and finds a note that says for Rokudo alongside an unopened scroll. Rokudo remembered how kind his grandfather was towards him and remembered his grandfather saying there was a family treasure that goes back generations. A scroll that had the power of magic. Rokudo has no idea why this scroll ended up in his care, but his goofy friends convinced him that it was time to use this magic to kick some delinquent ass. His friends handed the scroll to Rokudo and suddenly, the scroll shined and there was a brand of sacrifice on our protagonist's forehead. We later see our protagonist walking down the path to school the next day thinking about what kind of powers he will be getting. He then proceeds to get his dumb ass kicked by a bunch of thugs, but the girl of the group managed to convince the thugs to leave him alone. Afterward, our protagonist is about to get another can of whoop ass from Linuma in class again. Just when he's about to get shaken down, Tsubaki out of nowhere intervenes and convinces Linuma to empty Chief's pockets instead. Rokudo is starstruck and tells the gang that something weird is going on today. Rokudo catches a lustful stare from Tsubaki of all people. We then later pan over to the boys going to their hideout spot and see Rokudo bring up the fact that all the girls have been helping him out today. As they were in the middle of talking, we heard a knock from outside their bathroom stall. It's Tsubaki again. She's letting her true feelings out for Rokudo, saying how much she's sorry and she will never do anything mean toward him again. She said that and Yuzane bolted out of the bathroom. The boys were in disbelief and could not believe what happened. Following that, we see a girl delinquent with a level 10 giant holding a wooden katana going down the street to school. She sees a gang of thugs and easily overpowers them. We then see the boys going down the street and meet a confronting Linuma storming towards Rokudo-kun, screaming at him with anger, asking why Tsubaki has changed her phone wallpaper to you. The boys finally figured out the brand of sacrifice from earlier was a brand of horniness chasing Rokudo wherever he went, but only the delinquent ones. Rokudo could not handle this realization and ran like a maniac, accidentally bumping into the girl delinquent from earlier with the wooden katana. Our protagonist managed to even riz the delinquent girl up. Later on, we see Rokudo and the delinquent girl taking the same class together. Himawari Rana, the delinquent girl from earlier, eagerly introduced herself to Rokudo while the colonel was taking an ass whooping of a lifetime. The bully who was beating the colonel shifted his direction towards Rokudo and caught an L from none other than Himawari. Takaru later woke up in the hospital after the beating he took from Himawari. Linuma was shocked by her strength. We later see Rokudo running away from school, saying how much he hates what has happened so far and wants to transfer from the school, but the colonel and the chief managed to catch up to him and convince him to think about what would happen if he let Himawari be alone by herself against those delinquents. But Rokudo was not thinking about her safety. He was thinking about Himawari's juicy thighs, and out of nowhere Himawari pops up from behind Rokudo. And they both look at each other with lustful eyes. They both let their hearts out to each other. Eventually, we pan over to Linuma in the hospital talking to one of the gang leaders who caught a big L sandwich from Himawari. Linuma is shocked at hearing from the leader about how powerful Himawari can be. They later talk about how whoever has Himawari on their side is the equivalent of harnessing the power of Thor. We come back to Rokudo confessing how he's going to protect Himawari from danger. But Himawari doesn't need any protection because she vows to Rokudo that she will unalive all the delinquents just for him. Afterward, Rokudo is seen going back to school and being fawned over by all the girl delinquents of the school, but Himawari chases them all off with her premium booty. Rokudo then reminds Himawari to not break their promise of fighting against the delinquents. At a later time, we see the boys go back to their usual hiding spot. Rokudo brings up how his lame ass could not protect Himawari from any delinquents, but his friends reminded him how Himawari was going to protect their dorky ass from the delinquents. They soon all get out of the bathroom and get jump scared by Linuma. Linuma then confronts Rokudo on why every delinquent girl is siding with him. Before leaving Rokudo, he reminds him of how he will game end him soon. The Colonel and Chief both told Rokudo to get Himawari's help to get rid of Linuma. Rokudo goes to Himawari for help and sees her all beaten up because she kept her promise to him. Seeing how she didn't break her promise to him made him realize that it was time for him to be a man. Rokudo later goes up to the roof and confronts Linuma. Just before he's about to fight Linuma, he's about to piss his tighty-whities and asks if he can go to the bathroom. We are at the high school's rooftop awaiting Rokudo's ass beating. Linuma didn't think Rokudo had the balls to call him out for a confrontation. Linuma then started running towards him and took the first shot. Rokudo retaliated with the whimsical whiffle. Linuma is disgusted by his counterattack and reciprocates by throwing a wild haymaker at Rokudo. Rokudo thought to himself he had never been hit like that before. Linuma is looking forward to Rokudo's retort. Tsubaki screams at Linuma to stop this at once. He tells her to shut her trap. The boys thought of trying to help Rokudo but got scared from looking at Linuma's death glare. Linuma is annoyed and has a flashback to when he used to get bullied. He then lets the gang know to be glad that they survived this far. Rokudo heard this, started filling up his rage meter, and screamed at the top of his lungs, saying that it was not fair, and wondered aloud who Linuma thought he was. Linuma, surprised by this burst of rage, was about to respond with another fist sandwich but was stopped by this feeling of fear after he found out that none other than our favorite busty heroine, Himawari Rana, was here. She seemed angrier than Kratos when she saw how beaten up Rokudo was. The Colonel told Rokudo that he let Himawari know that you needed help. Linuma then stated that he hates weaklings but respects Himawari Rana. But he doesn't seem to understand why Himawari gives a rat's ass about Rokudo, and then proceeds to scream and bitch punches Rokudo as hard as he can. Watching this unfold before Himawari's eyes is making her angrier than a tsundere at a compliment convention. Linuma, watching her get angry, tells her to help Rokudo, otherwise he's going to turn into a human smoothie. The Colonel begs Himawari to go save Rokudo. Tsubaki covers her face, unable to watch as her cherished loser prepares for an unplanned nap. During all of this, Rokudo is still seen getting his shit kicked sideways. The Colonel and Chief plead to Linuma by telling him that they are weak and to stop game-ending Rokudo. Linuma thinks to himself that he doesn't want this to go on, but this fight doesn't seem to end because Rokudo is not giving up. Rokudo finally dares to ask for help after he figures out that he cannot win this fight. Rokudo asks for help, and in just a second, Himawari swoops in and one punches him into oblivion. The fight has finally ended between Rokudo and Linuma. Before the gang splits off, they all say their goodbyes to each other, and Rokudo says thank you to Himawari for saving him. Himawari blushingly responds that they will see each other tomorrow. Later onwards, we see Tsubaki sitting with Linuma in the hospital, all beaten up. Tsubaki is consoling Linuma on his not being able to defeat Himawari, as she is straight up an Avengers-level threat. The next day arrives and we see the boys cheering for Rokudo in class. Our protagonist thanks them for cheering him up. The class rep Tsuyukusa Mizue hands the boys the student council printouts as her airheaded giant forgot to give them to them earlier. The boys then started to simp on the class rep on how cute she was. They realized that Rokudo's powers do not work on girls who are not delinquents. Rokudo then leaves the classroom and is later surrounded by all the delinquent girls drooling over him. Tsuyukusa is stun-locked watching this transpire from afar. Tsubaki is jealous watching him being fawned over by all the girls. Rokudo escapes and looks behind to see his friends stalking him and all the girls watching him as he moves and is shocked. Linuma calls Rokudo over to talk. An unknown character from the high school rooftops is monitoring whatever is happening to Rokudo and is surprised to see all the girls falling for him. Later onwards, we see Linuma treating Rokudo to some Ikaraku ramen. Some middle schoolers from Takuma Middle School then came over and paid their respects to the alpha Linuma and Rokudo. Rokudo recognized one of the middle schoolers kicking his ass from the first day he got his horny powers and is embarrassed that he got dominated by a high schooler. We later cut to the Colonel and Chief looking over their friend from outside the ramen shop. They start hatching a plan to save him, thinking he's in trouble. But later they find out that Linuma and Rokudo are getting their respects paid by the middle schoolers outside the shop. Rokudo doesn't understand why Linuma asked him out to eat. Linuma responded, affirming that they are friends now. He also let him know that the Supreme Senpai at their school is after him now. Rokudo, hearing this, drops down to his knees once more and is shocked at this revelation. Afterward, Sasaki, a second-year high schooler acting as a spy for the top dog at their school, greets Rokudo with his delinquent girlfriend. He says Asanada is waiting for him. Rokudo gasps at this, and later Sasaki responds that he's going with him whether he likes it or not. Rokudo screams like a little anime girl at his response. Sasaki is appalled, looking at Rokudo, thinking aloud how all the girls are falling for his puny-looking ass. Sasaki grabs him and asks if he's fooling around with all the hot singles in the area. Rokudo says no. Sasaki looks back and says all of this to his girlfriend, and all of a sudden, Rokudo's Rizzy powers work on Sasaki's girl, and she hugs Rokudo and says to leave him alone. Sasaki is shocked at this and screams with anger. Linuma steps up and asks Rokudo if he's going to step up against Asanada or run away like a startled tsundere. Linuma further adds if he's going to fight, he will have his back. The colonel and chief finally get out of hiding and try to convince Rokudo to not do anything crazy. Rokudo denies their convincing plan and decides to fight Asanada-san. The colonel and chief saw this change of heart and decided to also join forces with Rokudo against Asanada-san. Rokudo and his friends then go to class, and then out of nowhere, Himawari Rana breaks down the wall with her giant and greets Rokudo. Sasaki, annoyed by this, decided to go make her press F to pay respects, but Rokudo decided to be a man and stopped him from crossing over to her. Himawari watches this unfold and tells Rokudo she loves him. The Rizzler gets rizzed. Sasaki is infuriated by all of this and says he's taking Rokudo to Asanada. But Linuma denies this and says if you want to get to him you will get skill issued by the gang. We cut to the classroom where Tsuyukusa is trying to explain to the class about the classroom reports, but no one gives a shit. Afterward, a small pink-haired lowly-looking girl appears out of nowhere. Asanada then scans the classroom and finds Rokudo. She gets closer, and the Rokudo's magic does not work on her because she's a loli. She scans Rokudo and then sends her goons to take him. Her goons Kirikata and Hiro started advancing towards Rokudo. Linuma stands up for Rokudo and is standing against Loli and her goons. Asanada starts to sense something is up. She looks at Himawari and points out that she's in trouble. Asanada is disgusted by this. Himawari and Asanada are about to 1v1 each other when Rokudo stands between them and stops it. Asanada then tries to death punch Rokudo but fails. So she asks the colonel to come closer and whacks the living hell out of him. It seems that the magic stops all attacks from girl delinquents. Asanada looks at him and says that he doesn't look like a bad guy and to talk things over. She brings him over to a girly-looking room. Asanada starts talking to him about how much of a good guy Rokudo could be. Rokudo thinks that maybe the powers are affecting her. Rokudo doesn't want this magic power of his to take advantage of Asanada, so he plans to turn Asanada into a good girl. Episode 3. Rokudo is about to leave her room and Asanada wants to go with him too. But Rokudo is making up reasons why he wants to go alone, but she manages to convince him to let him go with her. Rokudo realizes that this is his chance to transform Loli into a reformed delinquent and make her fall in love with school again. The next day arrives and Tsuyukusa is talking about the class's oral report to the entire class. The colonel questions Rokudo on his challenge of reforming Asanada, but Rokudo is more pumped up than All Might at 100% that he can make her reform. Tsuyukusa asked the class if they had any suggestions, and Rokudo exclaimed that they should observe the plant life. His classmates found that boring and would rather play Genshin Impact. Asanada backed him up by telling the class to shut their pie holes. Himawari also backed him by saying she liked that idea. Asanada raised her hands saying she liked Rokudo's idea, and the entire class followed. Afterward, we see the entire class outside watering plants and watching the plants grow. Rokudo is about to go join his class but gets interrupted by Himawari, who calls her over to get some action. They start watching the sunflowers grow. How romantic. He hands her a notebook telling her to observe the changes of the sunflower. The colonel and chief let Rokudo know what a brilliant idea all of this is. The colonel further adds that Rokudo might reform the entire school if he keeps going like this. Rokudo is happy with how his Rizzy powers are working in his favor. We cut back to class to the gang watching Asanada's drawing of the plant observation report. The gang compares their boring reports with each other. Everyone in class is seen comparing their reports with each of their classmates. Asanada steals Linuma's report and starts reading it aloud, embarrassing him. Rokudo reads Himawari's report and compliments her on it. Himawari blushes hearing this, and the Riz Master strikes again. He gives her advice to write about a plant they saw in the school garden. The gang watches Asanada and helps others to write in their reports. The boys hope it goes smoothly like this in the future as well. Later onwards, we see Kirikata and Asanada in her My Little Pony looking ass room talking about the number 1 gang, the Onishima Union. Kirikata is trying to convince Asanada to join forces with the Onishima gang, but Asanada wants to focus on school more because of Rokudo. Asanada heard the bell ring and left for class, leaving Kirikata alone thinking about what he should do with Rokudo. The boys find out it's raining, so there's no need to water the plants. But Asanada wants to check on the flowers once more before leaving. She tells Rokudo before setting off that she's glad they are friends with each other. She runs in the rain with her umbrella to the plants and sees her goons looking over the destroyed plants. The goons were fighting over each other, saying it wasn't them who knocked over the plants. Asanada gets mad like an angry housewife and demands an explanation. Shirakawa added more fuel to the fire by saying to Asanada that he saw the goons destroy the flowers. He further added that he can 1v1 these noobs. But Asanada said no, she's going to take care of them. Rokudo later goes to check on the flowers too and finds Asanada Thanos snapping everyone. Rokudo runs over to Asanada and asks her what happened. Asanada responds that the goons have destroyed their precious flowers. Rokudo is shocked by Asanada and asks how she could have done this. Hirakawa enters and says why wouldn't she, since she's the top dog of this school. Rokudo refuses to believe this. Hirakawa reassures him that he's wrong. Asanada then proclaims why she is interested in Rokudo. She realizes that she loves him and the Riz finally overpowers her. We cut to Kurakata and Asanada talking to the Onishima Union. The Onishima Union is about to accept Asanada and Kurakawa when someone voices their concern about this deal. A purple-haired nobody pops out and refuses to believe that Asanada is 18 years old. Kurakata mentions that Asanada can take on anyone. Nobody tells her to bring it on. Asanada then beats the balls out of him and scares everyone. Kurakata then thinks to himself how he's going to use Asanada's strength to his advantage and reach the top. We cut back to Rokudo out in the rain with Himawari thinking back to what just happened. Himawari consoles Rokudo and he asks for a favor from her, telling her she needs to go save Asanada-san. Himawari agrees and becomes Superwoman once more. Later we cut back to Canada about agreeing to be part of the Onishima gang by accepting their ring. Suddenly, Rokudo opens the gate and stops her by reciting the plant report from Asanada in hopes of convincing her to not join the gang. The Onishima Union then proceeds to stop Rokudo, but Himawari overpowers them. Another wave of enemies moves to Himawari, but Jojo punches them away. The gang leader presses Kurakata to bring Asanada here. Kurakata says he will fix this and proceeds to charge and punch Rokudo. Rokudo keeps on reading the report while he gets his ass kicked. Asanada watches this in vain and is starting to regret this. Kurakata keeps punching him, but Rokudo does not falter. Kurakata is amazed at Rokudo for not falling. Rokudo, all beaten, is walking towards Asanada still reciting the report. Morpheus would be proud because he is beginning to believe. Rokudo finally made her realize that she could be reformed again. Kurakata hates the sight of this and he picks up a pipe and is about to strike Rokudo down, but Asanada stands between the strike and says that she's going back to school. Kurakata is shocked to hear this. After this entire commotion, more reinforcements show up from the Onishima gang. Before they charge at them, the colonel and chief turn on the sprinklers and throw a container of wax at their feet. Talk about a sticky situation. Rokudo and the rest all manage to run away from this fight through the back door. Before the gang runs away, Kurakata manages to convince Asanada to leave him alone, and she leaves him alone and runs away with the gang. He realizes that Asanada is finally happy and he shouldn't drag her on into his evil plans anymore. They start running away near the forest. While running away, Asanada tells Rokudo that she is going to drop this and finally turn to a life of good and thanks him for all that he has done for her. While running away, Rokudo finally realizes all the good that he can offer other people without his horny powers. The gang questions how long this road continues, and Rokudo responds that he knows these parts well, as it is the happy road home that goes on forever. We then cut to Rokudo's beaten up face crying with joy, knowing that he has finally found some friends he can enjoy his high school life with. We begin with seeing Himeno Izami fawning over motorcycle policemen and how much she wants to become one after graduating high school. She can't wait anymore and decided to improvise becoming a motorcycle policewoman on her motorcycle. Looks like someone is addicted to protecting the law. Later on, we see the colonel, Rokudo, and the chief talking about how they acquired their scooter licenses. They think they domed Toretto. They later started talking about where they were going to get their bikes from. Lanuma then pops out and surprises Rokudo with his very own scooter for the absolute $0. Rokudo is surprised at this delinquent-looking scooter and says he doesn't like the look of it, but later changes his mind and accepts his gift because he realizes how much Lanuma went through to get this scooter for him. Afterward, we see Himeno Izami patrolling the streets for any danger. She stops at a red light and sees Rokudo swing by him on his delinquent-looking bike. Rokudo is scared he might be expelled if he gets caught, but suddenly Himeno catches up to him and scares the living bejesus out of him by beating the back of his bike with a baton. Rokudo is shocked at this. Himeno lets Rokudo know that she dislikes the bike he is riding, and just before she hits him again, our boy's Rizzy powers start to kick in and she stops at the side of the road. Himeno thinks to herself, why did he look like Prince Charming on a horse just now? The Wimp Squad then starts talking about what just happened to Rokudo during his ride to school. They get stopped by Himeno and she introduces herself to Rokudo. She returns Rokudo's student card to him as that's how she tracked him down. She fell while thinking to herself, why is she falling for a delinquent like him? Linuma then returns the bike that Rokudo has ridden before. Tsubaki says aloud how stupid it looks, as if it is a bad CS:GO skin. Himeno then questions him on whose bike this could belong to. She finds out it belongs to Rokudo and tells him to never ride that piece of filth ever again. Rokudo and Himeno both argue about this, and later on, Himeno starts crying and running away like an e-girl. Rokudo is devastated by this. Himeno then comes back and asks Rokudo to go on a ride with her. Rokudo agrees like the simp he is. They set off onto the road and Himeno apologizes for earlier, but later switches up and goes at the speed of a flash to make Rokudo never ride back again. Afterward, we see Rokudo puking his guts out on the side of the road. They later go back on the bike again to go back home. Himeno apologizes for earlier once again and offers Rokudo to be his driver. They look onto the side of the road and look at the beautiful forests just before they set off home into the sunset. The gang is waiting outside the school with the colonel's bike on standby along with Asanada. Himeno then makes an entrance on her Tony Hawk looking ass bike. She says aloud that she is here to pick Rokudo up. Asanada is shocked that Rokudo has a pickup driver. Himeno, looking at the colonel's bike, offers to help repair it, and the colonel is shocked that she knows how to fix bikes. Himeno fixes his bike and Asanada loves her for being so nice. Just before Rokudo is about to leave with him, he finds out that he has to sit behind her this time. Finally, time for some fan service. Rokudo grabs Himeno's slender body from behind the bike as they set off. Himeno tells Rokudo to never ride those delinquent-looking bikes as it could harm him. They reach their destination and Himeno tells him to ride a motorcycle that does not look like a delinquent one. Rokudo walks back home and thinks of Himeno as a princess who's in love with motorcycle police. One of the Onishima allies stops Rokudo and makes him realize that Himeno is impersonating the motorcycle police. Rokudo recognizes the Onishima ring and realizes the person who stopped him is a part of the gang. Shit is definitely about to go down. Rokudo is shocked at how Himeno can do this to him. Night arrives and the gang talks about what is going to happen to Himeno. They all are shocked that Himeno is impersonating the motorcycle police. Rokudo wants to save her from the Onishima gang, but the colonel tells him that it is impossible to do something like that. Linuma then adds that the guy that Rokudo talked to is Furukawa AI. Furukawa is part of Onishima Big 3. Furukawa is especially dangerous on a bike, Linuma further adds. They all await Rokudo's decision. Rokudo comes up with a plan to get Himeno's attention so that they can save her. They all are riding on delinquent bikes so that she can come out of hiding. Himeno finally comes out of hiding and is chasing them. She has a flashback to when she got saved by the first motorcycle policeman she's ever seen. She cherished that moment and ever since then wanted to be one herself. She's having a whole Naruto flashback about motorcycle police. She finally catches up to them, and just before she causes havoc, Rokudo lets her know the Onishima Union is after her. She refuses Rokudo's help and she says she's going after Furukawa AI. And she later rides off into the night like Ryan Gosling. The boys stop riding and find out that if they can't stop her from going after Furukawa, something really bad will happen to her. We later see the Onishima Union gathered up talking about what they will do to Himeno at tomorrow's rally. A noob pops out and challenges Furukawa to a race, saying if he loses, he should give up his spot to him. Furukawa gladly accepts the challenge and requests for his bike so that he can humiliate him. We cut to the boys talking about what Himeno might do to Furukawa. They talk about her not giving up her revenge just because of her idolizing the motorcycle policeman who saved her that day. The gang asks Rokudo if he's going to give up saving her, but he gets up and has an entire Rocky pep talk on how he is not going to stop doing the right thing. The colonel and chief also get pumped up hearing this and join in with Rokudo's plan to save Himeno. Rokudo further adds that if they stop doing the right thing, they will never achieve their goal of living their high school life peacefully. Linuma asks them what their plan is. Rokudo responds by saying that they will help Himeno catch Furukawa AI. We later cut back to Furukawa winning the race against the wannabe Paul Walker. Furukawa enjoys the thrill of being in a bike gang and thinks to himself how nobody can win against him. Then we cut back to Rokudo pumping himself up one more time with the colonel, chief, and Linuma on their plan of catching Furukawa AI with Himeno. We start with the colonel letting Himawari know that the cruising trip is cancelled and Rokudo will not be coming. The colonel then gets a flashback to Rokudo telling him to not include Himawari in this fight. He then apologizes to Himawari. Himawari asks if he has a fever, and then he responds to her saying that he is okay and that she shouldn't worry about him. It cuts to night and we still see Himawari waiting for Rokudo. Looks like she's still thirsty for him. Afterward, we see Himeno and Furukawa fighting on the road while they both are still on their bikes. They think it's fast and furious up here. Furukawa is surprised that she caught him off guard and questions who she is. Himeno, annoyed by this, responded by saying he should remember who she is. He says no and rides off like the Chad he is. Himeno chases after him. She stops after seeing that she's been led to a trap and watches the entire Onishima bike gang cornering her. Furukawa then offers her to join his gang. If she refuses, she is going to get game-ended like an enemy from Dark Souls. She refuses. Then the boys popped out of nowhere to give Himeno back up against her fight with Furukawa. Furukawa, looking at this, then has a flashback and remembers why he joined the bike thrills in the first place. In Furukawa's flashback, he gets pulled over by the motorcycle police for pulling a stunt on the road, but he refuses to be pulled over and races the police and beats them badly. Furukawa laughs at Himeno's little gang. Rokudo claps back by saying we are not a gang and is helping Himeno fight against you. Rokudo then says to Himeno that his friends are right behind to help you. Furukawa then proclaims that they end this fight with a traditional Onishima Union deathmatch. Furukawa explains that it's a tag. We later cut back to Himawari in the park getting hit on by two delinquents. They failed to attempt the Rokudo Riz. They left her alone and then said let's go watch the Onishima deathmatch where Rokudo is joining. Himawari, hearing this, went to go behind those two. Later on, we see Furukawa explain the rules to the boys and Himeno by saying that they need to tag him, and if they tag him he will do whatever they want. And he further adds that Rokudo needs to stay on the bike behind him, and if he doesn't the time limit stops for the tag deathmatch. Himeno does not allow this, but Rokudo agrees to his bout. Furukawa is amazed at his courage to stay behind him. Linuma makes Himeno less worried by saying that Rokudo is strong and he won't give up that easily. The colonel exclaims how they should end this quickly now. Furukawa tells him to hold on tight, but Rokudo then says that he isn't holding him until he finally catches him. Was Rokudo always this cool? Furukawa smirks at this and then zooms into the night. The boys and Himeno follow right behind on their bikes. Rokudo is holding on for dear life as Furukawa unleashes his speed demon. The chief and Linuma are talking about what will happen to Himeno after she catches up with Furukawa. The chief further adds that the Onishima Union bike gang would still be after her. The chief is about to get whacked, but Linuma saves him from a near miss. Linuma adds that all they need to do is back up Himeno. Then Linuma hatches a plan for how he will deal with the bike gang by throwing his entire bike behind him and falling bare ass onto the road. What a Chad move. The chief is shocked at what he just did right now. One of the goons then asked Linuma why he was helping these losers. Linuma then responded by saying that he is waiting for Rokudo to work his ass off to accomplish something big, and he's there to help him visualize his dream becoming a reality. An unknown biker then slips past Linuma and the chief, but the colonel is right behind his tail. The colonel and the biker both have an intense race, and the biker lets him know that he won't catch him even if he tries hard enough. The biker then makes a jump and is waiting to see what the colonel will do. The colonel tries to follow behind but slips his goofy ass off his bike and then lands on the biker's face. We later cut to Linuma finishing off the goons that were left behind. There are more goons that are coming behind, but Himawari swoops in and finishes them off. Himawari gets angry at Rokudo for not telling her about this fight, but Linuma reassures her that Rokudo did not tell you because he wanted you to be safe. The chief disregards this and begs her like a wimp to go save Rokudo. Himawari for the first time does not go and tries to save Rokudo, and waits for him on the way back. Himawari and the gang believe that he will come back in one piece. We cut back to the 1v1 between Furukawa and Himeno. Himeno is right behind Furukawa saying she is going to catch him. Furukawa finally recognizes who Himeno is and cuts back to a flashback of him riding with the policeman who used to race him. The policeman and Furukawa both seem close. The policeman tries to warn him, but Furukawa always wants to live on the thrill. Furukawa said he would give up this life of crime if he caught him. The policeman warns him he's going too fast. Furukawa slips off his bike like a dumbass and the policeman saves him. Furukawa's bike is about to hit Himeno, but the policeman saves Himeno by pushing himself onto the bike, hurting himself in the process. We cut back to the chase. Furukawa tells Rokudo that Himeno does not give two shits about herself and only wants revenge. Rokudo switches his back to Furukawa and Himeno looks at this and realizes she does not want him to hurt himself. She also finds out all of this is scary and doesn't want anyone to be hurt. She doesn't know what to do if she stops. Her hatred for Furukawa will never end. Rokudo convinces her that she's not alone and to catch Furukawa together. Himeno and Rokudo finally caught him, ending the game of tag. Rokudo finally meets up with Himawari again. Furukawa then gives the address of the motorcycle policeman to Himeno saying to go meet up with him. Furukawa then later added that Himeno is the leader of the bike gang. Himeno stops Furukawa saying he almost forgot that he will do whatever the winner says. They both went up to talk to the motorcycle policeman finally. Furukawa is about to leave and the policeman finally catches Furukawa saying that he finally caught him. Furukawa starts crying and apologizes for what he has done. The policeman asks if he is still living on the edge, and Furukawa responds with always. We cut back to the gang finally about to go on their cruising trip. Everyone is about to set off except the colonel, chief, and Linuma since their bikes got busted in the fight against Furukawa. Himawari is getting jelly while Rokuto is sitting behind Himeno. The chief and colonel are glad that the fight is finally over. Himeno and Rokuto finally set off for their cruising trip while Himeno has an imagination acting as Rokuto's Prince Charming on their white horse. Rokuto is walking down to school thinking to himself how many people have saved him so far. He especially thinks about Himawari saving him more times than he can remember and is going to give her a gift as thanks for all that she has done for him. Suddenly, out of nowhere, someone rushes into his face. Later, we see two girls waiting for Rokuto because they heard rumors of him being so hot that you will fall in love with him at first sight. Boy, how disappointed they will be. The other girl says that is just a rumor. The first girl then adds that his harem follows him every day to school. And that is true because of his horny powers. Suddenly, as if right on cue, a stampede of girls are fighting over who gets to carry Rokuto's bag. The two girls move over to the side scared of what's happening. Rokuto is trying to get his bag back. Himeno then pops out and offers Rokuto a ride, making the two girls even more scared because of the bike. Himawari busts through a wall, making the girls even more scared, and finally, Asanada breaks down the wall too, making the girls petrified and finally run away in fear, saying how they're never doing this again. Himawari finally got Rokuto's bag and returned it to him like a simp. Tsuyukusa watches all this happen from afar. We cut back to Tsuyukusa struggling to find her seat in class when she accidentally bumps into Tsubaki. Tsubaki insults her and moves on, leaving Tsuyukusa thinking to herself how much she dislikes delinquents. She walks outside of class where she finds Rokuto and she realizes that he's the only good one so far. But she also found out how much he changed with everything that happened around him. She says to herself on the way home one more time how much she hates delinquents. We cut back to Rokuto thinking about giving the gift to Himawari when they meet again. The gang is at Rokuto's room chilling and having fun playing some Genshin Impact. Rokuto gets up and goes to get some snacks. Everyone feels uneasy now that they are left alone with Himawari because she only talks to Rokuto and nobody else. The colonel thinks to himself how terrifying Himawari is when they're left alone with her. Asanada starts questioning Himawari about what her favorite food is. Tsubaki then says aloud and responds like an airhead that she probably doesn't eat anything. Himawari says meat, and she dislikes sweet stuff. Asanada asks her what her blood type could be, and the gang turns it into a game on what her answer might be. This just turned into a game of Family Feud. Himawari responds by saying her blood type is O. The colonel guessed it right. Rokuto brought back pudding, found out what was going on, and asked Himawari what her favorite food was. She lies out of her ass and says pudding. Later, before everyone leaves, Rokuto stops Himawari from leaving. He surprises her with the gift he's been trying to give her all day. She opened it up and it's revealed to be a hairband. She's so happy that she says she will never cut her hair again. Rokuto hastily responds to her, telling her to not do that. Himawari thanks Rokuto again with her big heart. The next day arrives and we see three delinquents outside school talking about whether Asanada and Himawari are fighting to the death right now. We cut back to class with Asanada being friendly with Himawari and telling her to copy down from the blackboard, otherwise she's going to repeat another year. Linuma and the boys are talking about how you can never guess those two would harness Hulk's strength. Rokuto thinks to himself how he wants Himawari to keep getting along with everyone and not just with himself. Tsuyukusa tries to convince the class to clean up, but it's no use because everyone is their protagonist at this point. The gang are the only ones left in class to clean. Himawari wanted to clean up with Rokuto, but Asanada wanted to clean up with her. Rokuto, seeing this, asks Himawari to go clean up with her instead. Himawari started sulking like a tsundere. Everyone started doing their job. Tsuyukusa watches Rokuto take his job seriously and thinks to herself that he is still a good person even though he is a delinquent. Asanada and Himawari destroy the tiles because they try to clean underneath the tiles, and everyone else is shocked at this. Meanwhile, the chief is outside the classroom minding his business in peace. Rokuto tells Himawari how much of a good job she did helping Asanada out in cleaning the classroom. Himawari responded by saying she did it for him. Rokuto thanked her for her work. The gang asks Rokuto if he saw Asanada, and Rokuto tells them to keep quiet because she is sleeping on Himawari's lap. Later, the boys are seen eating in Royal Amori. A group of delinquents are sitting next to them, and the boys are not bothered or scared this time. Rokuto overhears one of the girl delinquents saying how a lame ass gave her a hairband and she threw it away. Rokuto, hearing this, thought to himself how he never saw Himawari wearing her hairband. Rokuto started shivering with fear of how he might have no style. Afterward, we see the girls waiting for Linuma to wake up so that they can talk about something important that Linuma brought up. Tsubaki asks Himawari about the hairband she's wearing on her wrist. Himawari blushingly responds that Rokuto is the one who gave it to her. The girls scream with glee that you have to wear the perfect outfit to match that hairband to impress Rokudo. The girls are now window shopping for their outfits. You go girls. The delinquents tried to scare the boys, but the girls and Linima arrived just in time before they could do that. Rokudo got raised up by Himawari's new outfit and the fact that she also put on his headband. Rokudo found out it wasn't his hairband she put on. Himawari explains she wants to see his headband on her wrist so she knows you're with her wherever she goes. Rokudo is incredibly shy after hearing this. Linuma tells Rokudo that other gangs in town know his name now, like he's the Baba Yaga. Linuma further adds that there are more bosses to worry about in the Onishima gang. Asanada asks who's the biggest boss in the Onishima gang. Linuma responds with Matsumiya Doji. He is the president of the Onishima gang, Linuma adds, and is the most dangerous of them all. Rokudo responds that they can apologize to the Onishima to stop their war with them. Asanada agrees. Linuma says that's a dumb idea, but Rokudo responds by saying this is the only way. Linuma is convinced and will do what Rokudo requests. Doji is seen standing outside the high school plotting his revenge for Himawari Rana. We see a massacre inside the Onishima Union. Bodies were beaten up everywhere and absolute chaos in there. It's none other than our favorite heroine, Himawari Rana. Doji is smiling and scared at the same time. The top boss is baffled at how she alone toppled the Onishima Union all by herself. We see the gang brainstorming on the school's rooftop about how to apologize to the Onishima gang. Linuma brings up going straight to Doji and apologizing to him. Tsubaki pops out of nowhere, out of breath, and says the Asanada finds Doji nice and introduces herself to Doji. Doji shakes Asanada's hand, and the whole class is shocked that the boss of this school and the head of the Onishima gang are shaking hands. Rokudo even shakes Doji's hands, but realizes his hands are trembling, probably because of the clutch he pulled on Fortnite. But it was trembling from looking straight at Himawari. The delinquents around the school are shocked that the Onishima gang is at their school right now. Doji's gang is on the rooftop discussing how to recruit Himawari into their gang. Doji starts getting scared about how someone like her could exist. One of the goons calmed Doji down. Later on, we see Tsuyakusa bring up that the school festival is getting near. She is hoping the class will select a committee. Everyone's seating has been rearranged in class. The boys finally go back to their usual hiding spot to discuss what is going on. The chief says the Onishima leaders didn't want to cause trouble, which must be good. The colonel then brings up something important about Rokudo's horny powers. He says that Rokudo's magic spell could trigger a conflict between the Onishima and the school. Rokudo says that Yashiya is looking at him a lot, but Sumair is ignoring him. The colonel brings up that the Sumair hasn't reacted at all, which is worrying. The chief reassures both of them that all those bad girls used to be good before, so they will be able to get along soon. He further adds that they shouldn't worry at all, as they can continue as they always have. The colonel says that they can continue on their mission as they always have, which is to enjoy their peaceful school life. Sumair's brother Rokudo, dumbfounded by this, ran at the speed of sound. Sumair Reino-sen tried to catch up to him. With great power comes great responsibility. The colonel and chief are shocked at this revelation. Reino finally catches up to Rokudo and corners him. Rokudo wants to try to escape him, but Reino reveals to him that she's a girl. She reassures Rokudo that she's a girl, and Rokudo is relieved at this information. And we get a plot twist of her revealing Sumair Kazino as her brother. It's a trap. She explains to Rokudo that her brother is younger and she is older, and her brother is cross-dressing as a girl to blend in the school. She asks Rokudo to keep this a secret, and Rokudo asks her why she told him this. She tells him how much skibbity riz he has and runs away like a girl. We cut back to class with Doji asking Himawari so many questions, but she ignores all of them. Tsubaki and Linuma are wondering why he's asking so many questions, but one of the goons says that he can figure it out from her facial expressions even if she's not answering any questions at all, but Doji exclaims how he can't figure her out. He's scared that he can't figure her out. Rokudo enters the class and Himawari transforms into the girliest girl Doji has ever seen. Doji then thinks to himself how Rokudo is the key to figuring out Himawari Rana. Rokudo then starts narrating on how the Onishima Union has helped end Harakura High's aggression with their school, and everyone started liking the Onishima Union because of their act of kindness. Afterward, we see Tsuyakusa talking to the class about what they should do for the school festival. The delinquents of the class want to end this discussion, and the boys are shocked at this and want to talk more about the festival planning. Rokudo drools over wanting to plan more about the festival. Himawari asks Rokudo what he wants to do for the festival. Himawari stands up from her seat and says like a JoJo character that they are going to make a play for the school. Everyone agrees. Rokudo has an altercation with Sumair Kazino, and Kazino kicks the balls out of Rokudo. Later on, we see Rokudo and Himawari alone in class. Himawari tells Rokudo that she will stay to help him plan the play. Himawari leaves to get a book from the library, and Yashiya enters the classroom, leaving them both alone. Rokudo asks her why she joined the Onishima gang, and she responds that she likes strong people. She says that Doji is the creepiest one of them all. She further adds that strong people make her heart skip a beat. She lends a love letter saying she likes Rokudo for how strong he is, and Rokudo thinks to himself this is the power of the magic spell. He is about to accept her letter, but Himawari joins just in time and Yashia leaves the classroom. Himawari asks Rokudo if anything happened between him and Yashia, but Rokudo says that nothing happened. Looks like he's two-timing now. He thought to himself how he didn't accept the love letter and felt bad for Yashia. Yashia is seen walking down the school halls ripping the love letter she made for Rokudo. She's angry that Himawari stepped in between her and Rokudo. She thinks to herself how much she loves strong men but hates strong women even more. She then tells herself that she will show her love to Rokudo in a formal challenge for him. We see the boys in class fixing up some cardboard props for their school play in the upcoming school festival. The chief says how they don't have enough cardboard. They should have mined more wood from Minecraft. Rokudo gets up to get more cardboard, but he's stopped by Linima. Linima warns him to not get mixed up with any delinquents, but Rokudo disregards him and runs away saying that he will be fine. Later on, our Jumptastic hero gets cornered by an entire motorcycle gang who all happen to be delinquent girls. A girl steps up to insult him, but guess what? Our boy's Rizzler jeans start kicking in and all the girls start finding him cute, and Rokudo is scared that this is about to happen again. All the girls keep pressing him to ditch his play and hang out with him. It should have been me, the president of Team Ryugu, which Himawari responds like the brute she is, that she was bored. Otoheim thanks her and Himawari starts walking away. Otoheim convinces her to eat yakiniku with her gang. Otoheim says that her gang was unbeatable once Himawari joined their team. In another flashback, Otoheim gives her wooden sword to Himawari as a show of friendship. Otoheim further adds that their gang was unstoppable for the longest time, but their reign of power didn't last long. Otoheim's gang was overpowered by the Onishima, and she later ordered the gang to disband as she didn't want anyone to get hurt anymore. Himawari, hearing this, decided to leave and destroy the Onishima gang all by herself. Rokudo, hearing this, asked Himawari if this was true, and Himawari gleefully says yes. Rokudo thinks to himself if Doji knows about this. Before Otoheim leaves Rokudo and Himawari, he asks Rokudo to take care of Himawari and lets him know that they will be there for when the play starts in their festival. Rokudo, hearing this, forgot about the cardboard assignment and ran back to class with Himawari. We cut back to class with Reino painting the cardboard. Rokudo joins her and brings a bucket of blue paint. Rokudo compliments Reino for her talent with art. Reino blushes and Rokudo forgets that she is still under his magic spell. Reino appreciates Rokudo and tells him she loves attending class more because of him and that he doesn't treat her any differently even if she is cross-dressing as a boy. Rokudo tells her how all he ever wants is to enjoy his high school life to the fullest. He also lets her know how he used to be scared of people bullying and how he did nothing against that, but he will help Reino however he can. Reino, hearing this, is about to burst by almost telling him that she loves him, but gets interrupted by the boys bringing back more supplies for the play. The boys start to strip out of excitement to show their determination to complete the school's play. Linuma tells Rokudo and Reino to strip too, but Rokudo saves Reino by telling the boys they are not going to strip. Reino shows her thanks to him by drawing a heart on her palm with her lipstick to signal to him that she loves him. The Rizzler strikes again. The class is rehearsing for the play in the school gym. Everyone is getting along and is excited about the school play. Doji is shown a photograph that completely switches up his personality and is about to exit the gym before he is stopped by Rokudo. Rokudo asks him what happened, but Doji surprises him by telling him that there is no such thing as peace. Doji and his group went to discuss that they were running out of time and that they needed to catch Himawari fast. Later we see Rokudo and Himawari walking together. They talk about who to invite to the play. Rokudo asks her if she's going to invite Otoheim and her gang. She doesn't know if they are friends. Rokudo asks why she protected them back then. She responds that she was mad for some reason back then. Rokudo asks her to be more considerate of other people's feelings. Himawari says that she will try to be more considerate towards Rokudo. Rokudo and Himawari return to class to find out one of their classmates is injured. Doji convinced everyone that the Ryugu gang beat Reino and asked for Rokudo's help. But Rokudo knows that Otoheim and her gang are good people and refuses to fight against the Ryugu gang. Rokudo runs to the bathroom and calms himself down about the whole situation. He gets out and finds Linuma standing there. Linuma tells him that Ryugu could be in trouble, but Rokudo says that they are good people. So Linuma tells Rokudo that he is going to side with him since he doesn't trust either gang. They come up with a plan so the school festival can be saved. The Colonel and Chief decide to tell Sherlock Holmes this crap and investigate the Ryugu gang to see if Rokudo was telling the truth. We cut back to Doji trying to convince Himawari to get out of Rokudo's life and join the Onishima Union to fight against the Ryugu gang. Himawari almost game ends Doji hearing this, but Doji brainwashes Himawari and finally convinces her to join the Onishima Union. Lanuma and Rokudo join late and find out from Doji that Himawari is going to fight the Ryugu gang, and Doji tells Rokudo how he will never be in the same world as Himawari because oh how good of a person he is. Doji turned full batshit crazy on Rokudo and Himawari. Doji tells Rokudo that if he wants Himawari Rana back, then he has to descend to the depths of hell to get her back. Doji leaves saying he's looking forward to the school festival. Rokudo is shocked hearing this and drops down to his knees. Lanuma tells him this is no time to be feeling down. Lanuma tells him not to worry since he's not alone. The boys and Asanada gather in the classroom. The colonel tells everyone that the Ryugu gang are not bad people. It cuts to a flashback of the colonel and chief tailing two girls as if it were an Assassin's Creed mission. The colonel says the two girls stopped a boy from their high school. The girls brought him into an alley and made him play Genshin Impact. After they got done beating him up, the colonel recognized the girls as the Sumair siblings from the Onishima Union and said they were acting as the Ryugu gang and making the Ryugu gang seem like enemies to their high school. Lanuma then asked how Reino looked beaten up earlier. The colonel turned into Einstein and gave a smart answer by saying she used makeup to look all beat up. The colonel asks Rokudo what is their next move. It cuts to Doji and one of his goons talking about what if Himawari turns on them tomorrow, as Himawari used to be a part of the Ryugu gang. Doji then responded that the plan won't stop until Himawari destroys the Ryugu gang. Rokudo then says that they plan to stop the Ryugu gang from attending their school festival. The colonel then says that they would have to put a hold on trying to get Himawari back from the Onishima Union if they go ahead with this plan. If they stop Ryugu from entering, then they will be able to focus on getting Himawari back. Rokudo is worried that Himawari will hurt her friend, Otoheim. Two students are seen walking and saying how there's a festival being held at Amori High. They are about to enter the school but are scared off by the entire school standing there menacingly waiting to kick the Ryugu gang's ass. We cut to Doji standing on the high school's rooftop with his smooth criminal-looking ass outfit. Doji is explaining the plan to his gang. He explains that the students of Amori High will beat the Ryugu gang, and he tells Himawari that she will defeat their leader Otoheim as her initiation into the Onishima Union. He ends the plan by saying after all of this Amori High will be a safe high school once more and he and his gang will run off to the underworld. Doji asks Himawari if she's reluctant to defeat Otoheim. Himawari responds by saying no, and she also adds that if they break their deal and hurt Rokudo, then she will pull an Itachi and erase everyone. One of the goons asks Doji if they should worry about Rokudo warning the Ryugu gang. Doji responded saying that he could take care of it. Afterward, we see the gang monitoring all the last known locations where the Ryugu was last seen. The colonel and Rokudo are talking with everyone through walkie-talkies while running through the street. The colonel asks if they've seen anyone. Lanuma is at the cafe saying that he doesn't see anyone but will stay here longer to see if he catches anyone. Asanada says that she and the chief can't find anyone either because they can't cover much ground because of the chief's fat ass. Rokudo thinks to himself how they can still win if they find the Ryugu gang before they reach Amori High. The colonel and Rokudo are standing on a bridge overlooking a road hoping that they will catch the Ryugu gang. The colonel is worried that the Onishima Union will launch a surprise attack on them while trying to warn the Ryugu gang. Reino pops out and apologizes to Rokudo. Reino is trying to convince the colonel how she left the Onishima Union, but the colonel does not believe her. She reveals herself to be a girl to the colonel and is telling both of them that she can't ever go back now. She wants to be on the side of Rokudo. Rokudo and the colonel forgive her, and just after that, they see that the Ryugu gang is about to cross under their bridge. And out of nowhere, the colonel gets whacked in the neck by none other than who we thought to be Sumair Reino but is revealed to be Sumair Amano, the oldest brother of the Sumair siblings. Rokudo is shocked to find out that there are 3 of them. Otoheim crosses the road with her gang, and we later find out Rokudo and Colonel Mike Tyson to sleep. The Ryugu gang finally reached the school. Lanuma and the others woke up Rokudo from his slumber. Rokudo is sad to say he couldn't stop them from crossing. Lanuma says don't worry about that and let's get to the school. Kazino later finds Reino and asks her why she told Doji about liking Rokudo. He scolds her that they both don't know what Amano will do to her now. Reino apologizes. Kazino gets up and vows to destroy Rokudo for making his sister fall in love with him. We later see the Ryugu gang waiting in the gym. Hando is given the order to bring Otoheim to the rooftop but is later surprised to find Haino Azami under the helmet with the bike gang that used to be under Furukawa AI's influence. Hando is shocked by this revelation and is ordered to get to the front gate where the actual Ryugu gang is residing. Tsubaki comes out and warns the Ryugu gang that they are in danger. Rokudo and the gang are seen running to the school revising the backup plan they made with Tsubaki and Haino in case they couldn't catch up to the Ryugu gang. Tsubaki convinced the Ryugu to leave, but before they could leave they were swarmed by the Amori High students from both sides. Otoheim saves the Ryugu gang by slapping the shit of the Amori High school students. The Ryugu gang leaves, but Otoheim stays in the school to fight with Yashiya. Hando manages to get one of the Ryugu members and threatens to hurt her if Otoheim doesn't follow him to the roof. The boys finally reach the school and find Tsubaki, and she tells them what has happened. Doji starts talking through their walkie-talkie and welcomes them like the edgelord that he is, that they have entered the gates of hell. Doji tells them to go back to where they came from. Rokudo asks him if all the good times they had were a lie, and Doji tells him of course they were. Rokudo is shocked at this and says that's terrible, lying to him and trying to bring Himawari down a dark path. Doji tells him that Himawari was bad to begin with. Doji tells him to give up on trying to save her. Rokudo screams into the mic that he will make Himawari happy. Linuma finally knows what they have to do now. They have to reach the rooftop of the school to save Himawari before she beats Otoheim to a pulpy orange juice. Doji stands like Michael Jackson in front of Otoheim and her friend on the high school rooftop. Doji tells Otoheim she's about to fight the monster that's heading this way, as if the monster is some kind of Elden Ring boss. Otoheim's friend starts saying that Otoheim is incredibly strong and can defeat whatever is standing in her way, but they both see someone opening the door, and it turns out to be none other than Himawari Rana. We cut back to Linuma and the gang standing before the entirety of the Amori High School delinquents. Linuma then goes over the plan once more with the boys and Asanada. He yells loudly that their goal is to get to the roof as fast as they can before Himawari crushes Otoheim. Everyone agrees in unison. The colonel leads the gang yelling charge. The Amori students do the same. Shit is about to go down once more. One of the Amori students rushes Linuma but gets owned like a noob. Linuma screams to the gang to not fight the students but instead push the students aside and keep moving forward. But Linuma finds out how everyone gets easily overpowered by the students and mutters to himself how weak they all are. Asanada tries talking to them but everyone ignores her. Linuma says to himself how they're not getting anywhere. But out of nowhere, Himno surprises everyone with her bike and tells everyone to sit behind her. Linuma, Rokudo, and the rest sit behind, and she accelerates through the Amori High School students and crashes into the school's entrance door. She thinks she's Tom Cruise. Everyone falls off the bike inside the school except Rokudo. Himno and Rokudo see Hando blocking their way. Himno asks him to step aside, but Hando refuses. Himno then accelerates towards him at full speed, thinking we'll move aside, but Hando moves forward and stops the bike with his bare hand. Himno and Rokudo both fall off the bike. Hando throws a punch with the power of 10,000 suns at Himno but gets saved by a 3 feet pink-haired loli. Asanada tells Hando to not do that. Asanada looks back and tells Rokudo to take the others and leave, and reassures Rokudo to not worry because she will talk things over with Hando. Linuma and the others find out the Amori students are still right behind their tails. Himno says she will hold off the pursuers, and Hando says that no one's getting past him, but they all do anyway because Asanada starts crawling on him to distract him. She gets off him and tells him to stop fighting because he's a nice and earnest guy. He says that he's not. Asanada then reveals to him how he crossed the road with a child and how hard he studied for his tests. He tells her to stop acting cocky. Asanada responds that he should stop getting violent. Hando punches Asanada and she's sent flying. Hando then starts talking about how Doji helped him out in school by following his orders and he will like the results. Asanada, all beaten up, responds that's not right. She says she knows how it's easier to follow orders, but if he keeps doing this he will come to regret it one day. Hando doesn't understand, he says. Asanada says that one day she will be the kind of boss that people will rely on. She picks herself up and unties her hair, saying that this isn't a fight. She says that she's going to knock some sense into him to protect him. They have the most Naruto-esque battle you could think of. He picks up Asanada and throws her like a ragdoll. She runs back to him and kicks him in the face and says no throwing. He slaps her into the ground. Asanada tries to convince him, but Hando denies anything that's coming out of her mouth. Asanada says she's going to teach him now and proceeds to take off her shoes and socks and tells him to bring them on. He punches her as hard as he can, but nothing happens to her. He thinks he's him. Asanada retaliates with the power of the gods above and punches him into the void. Hando finally falls to the ground. He doesn't want to admit he lost, and he says that strength is all he has left. Asanada pats him on the head, saying she will be there for him when he screws up. Hando then says to her that no wonder she's the boss of this school. Asanada then chuckles and falls asleep. We cut back to the roof where Doji tells Himawari to crush Otoheim to pieces. Otoheim is shocked at this and says this isn't like the Himawari she used to know. Doji laughs and says that this is what Himawari wants for Rokudo. The boys are about to go up against Akai Kohei. Linuma says that this one is all mine and you guys should get to the roof. Linuma rushes to Akai and starts swinging at him, knowing he's about to pull some kind of dirty trick on him. Akai overpowers him by dodging everything but punches his face in. The boys are shocked at this. The colonel goes up behind and tries to attack him, but he forgets that he is a side character. Rokudo tried to rush Akai, but Akai stopped him and didn't hit him because Doji gave orders to not hurt him. Rokudo watches as his friends get their asses kicked. Akai picks the chief's head up and starts mocking him. Rokudo gets mad and tries to punch but fails miserably. Akai wants him to promise to give up on Himawari. If he doesn't promise, he will start breaking the chief's fingers. This got dark real quick. Linuma starts having a flashback to the first time meeting Akai. Linuma gets betrayed by his friends in his flashback by Akai. Tsubaki consoles him for the betrayal he experienced. Linuma wakes up and thinks about how he couldn't save his friends because of how weak he was. Who's cutting onions now? The chief launched a surprise attack on Akai. Linuma is surprised by the chief's surprise attack. Linuma gets up and says once more to leave it to him. The boys are shocked at Linuma getting up after that beating. Akai is angry at this show of strength and rushes at him. Linuma throws an overhand right at him and knocks his ass down. This gives the chance for the boys to make a run for it. Akai starts acting like a JoJo character and starts throwing a barrage of punches, and Linuma eats all of them until he grabs a hold of Akai's arm, throws him against the wall and punches him into the ground. Linuma the Chad. The other three get cornered by Sumire Amano and Sumire Kazino. Linuma calls them on their walkie-talkies and says that he needs to rest and asks them if they can take care of this. The Wimp Squad all scream that they could do it. Linuma lets Akai know that they can win and not count them out of this fight. Linuma then thinks to himself how he's counting on the Wimps to do the impossible and end this fight. We see the boys cornered by Kazino and Amano from the front and behind on the staircase. Amano says with a grin on his face, "Now what?" The colonel tells the chief and Rokudo that Rokudo just needs to reach the roof, and if he does that, then he can talk some sense to Himawari and they can win this battle. The colonel says that he never believed that the three of them would go up against a dangerous group of delinquents. The colonel further says that Rokudo gave them the will to fight this battle. He also adds that they should have nothing to fear. The colonel then screams to the chief how they should get a hold of Amano together, and the chief ends it off by saying that they should not let go of him no matter what happens. The chief and colonel start running at him at full speed on the stairs. Rokudo follows behind them. But Amano had plans of his own and said hello to his little friend like Tony Montana and sprayed the fire extinguisher at them. The colonel and chief couldn't handle a little vape action and fell to the bottom of the stairs. Amano cackled at this and found all of this amusing. He gives his props to Rokudo, saying that he and his friends seem close. He brings up Reino and says to Rokudo that he knows how worried he is for her. Amano continues to belittle Reino on how much of a waste of space she is and how disappointed he is in her after teaching her everything he knows. Amano keeps insulting Reino for all the nonsense she spouts about school and romance and useless things that he hates hearing about. Rokudo is baffled at hearing all of this and tells Amano that Reino is his little sister. Rokudo says that he finally understands who brought Reino into the Onishima Union, and it was none other than Amano. Rokudo snaps at Amano and screams while charging at him that he should care for his little sister and needs to understand her better. But Rokudo is stopped and is put in a chokehold by the trap, Kazino. Amano is happy at this and says to kick Rokudo's ass and says that he's going down to deal with the other two. Kazino lets go of Rokudo and kisses him on the cheek. Everyone is flabbergasted. Rokudo is shocked that his powers work on traps too, but it's later revealed to be none other than Reino hiding in plain sight. Reino tells Rokudo to run to the roof. Amano is surprised that Kazino and Reino both lied to him. We cut back to Kazino having a flashback of him and Reino following Amano into delinquency from when they were children. Kazino said that he and Kazino both looked up to Amano for defying norms. They followed Amano into the Onishima Union. Kazino said that everything was going smoothly until Reino started to change for Rokudo, and he said to himself that he would destroy Rokudo because of him ruining everything. Reino then tells Kazino how far Amano is going into the dark side. Amano thinks he is Darth Vader. Reino tells Kazino how they were chasing Amano to be acknowledged by him but ended up as his playthings. Reino tells Kazino that she will beat Amano to make him realize how she and Kazino are their people. It cuts back to Reino and Amano fighting each other as if it's a Mortal Kombat match. Reino takes a beating from Amano. Amano tells Reino how much he hates normal crap. Reino explains to Amano how much she wants to go to school like the people she admires and that this is what she wants for herself. She goes and starts kicking Amano, but Amano easily overpowers her and kicks her to the floor. Reino tells him that all of her kicks landed on him. She gets up again and starts kicking at him again, and Amano cannot dodge any of her kicks. Amano is mad that he cannot dodge her kicks and unleashes a barrage of kicks at her. But Reino dodges one of Amano's kicks and kicks him straight in his stomach. Amano is shocked to find out that none of these are the kicks that he taught her but are instead all of Sumire Reino's kicks. Reino chases down Amano with her kicks and kicks him onto the wall. And Reino finally finishes off Amano with Cristiano Ronaldo's signature penalty kick into his stomach. Amano is knocked down to the ground by Reino. Reino tells the chief and colonel to hurry up to the roof. Amano screams for Reino and tells her not to leave him alone. Reino looks behind and calls Amano a big dummy. We cut back to Rokudo running towards the roof, thinking to himself how everyone sacrificed themselves for him to reach the roof. Rokudo gets to a hallway and finds all the students beaten up and is later dragged by Yashia into a classroom with a lot of questionable torture devices. He thinks to himself how can he deal with Yashia, the #1 fighter of the Onishima Union. He thinks she's been given orders by Yashia not to harm him but later gets whipped by Yashia. Yashia says she finally met her ideal man, which is Rokudo. Rokudo thought to himself that he had to take advantage of Yashia just this once to reach Himawari. Rokudo tries but is rejected instantly. Yashia says as she's stripping that she loves strong and durable men because she can get to crush them into little pieces. This is where all the fanservice budget went into making Yashia's skimpy outfit. Rokudo is proceeded to be whipped by Yashia continuously. He is hurt badly, but is later hugged by Yashia's bouncy funbacks. Yashia consoles him while resting his head on her breasts. Every man's dream. Yashia then blindfolds him and then lights her whip on fire. Rokudo is frightened and screams while rowing both his arms forward. Yashia gets scared by this and thinks to herself how much she loves strong men. She has this twisted vision of Rokudo being the strongest man in the world and is scared of Rokudo killing her. She never heard of Goku then. He figures her out by knowing she's afraid of him. Rokudo makes her even more scared, but Yashia falls in love with Rokudo even more now and starts whipping him more. But she almost falls out the window and Rokudo saves her from her imminent death. Yashia loves Rokudo even more now and passes out from the amount of love she feels for him. Rokudo thinks to himself how he can finally get to the roof now. He runs to the roof and finally reaches it. Doji-san is shocked to see him standing there after sending all his goons at him. Rokudo tries to call out for Himawari, but Doji stops him and tells Rokudo that this is Himawari's true nature and she is happy right now. Doji tells him he knows what everyone wants and Himawari wants violence. Rokudo refuses to believe this. Doji lets him go to Himawari and Rokudo stops Himawari from landing the final blow at Otohan. Rokudo tries to convince her to not hit your friends and Himawari responds by saying that she understands and gives Rokudo's hairband back to him. She says to Rokudo this is where we say goodbye. Rokudo is speechless. Himawari tells Rokudo that this is where they say goodbye. She continues by saying how good Rokudo is and how bad she is. She says that she understands that now. Rokudo reassures her that she's a good person, but Himawari responds by saying that she never considered Otoheim or anyone else a friend besides Rokudo. Rokudo says that is not true. Himawari says she never understood what Rokudo found enjoyable in school or the people he was around with. Looks like Himawari is a complete sociopath. Himawari further adds that the only time she feels alive is when she beats people up. She realizes that someone as bad as her can't be around Rokudo, and she later adds that she can be as bad as she wants when Rokudo isn't around her. She says that it's for the best and Rokudo asks her why does she look so sad then? Because she says it hurts. She says that she doesn't understand it and continues by saying the more comfortable she is with being bad, she starts to love Rokudo even more. They both are sobbing their hearts out while they are talking to each other. Rokudo thinks to himself saying that he already knows that it's all because of the spell. Himawari is astonished that she's crying. Rokudo then says that he will get stronger so that he can enjoy going to school with someone as bad as her. He lets her know that he won't let it beat him. He thinks to himself that he won't let this spell beat him. Himawari gets up and tells Rokudo that she hopes for Rokudo to enjoy school. Himawari goes to Doji and Doji says to her that he's going to guarantee a peaceful high school life for Rokudo. His gaslighting power levels are over 9,000. Doji is thinking to himself how he won while he's about to walk away with Himawari, but Rokudo stops Doji from leaving and tells him that if he wants to leave with Himawari, he's going to have to go through him first. Doji found his offer to be outlandish and never even thought about fighting Rokudo. Himawari scares Doji into backing off, but Rokudo lets Himawari know to not interfere, and that he's serious about getting stronger. Doji says he doesn't feel great about this, but if Himawari doesn't mind, then Rokudo got himself a fight. Rokudo rushes Doji and gets punched in the stomach by him. Doji thinks to himself how this is going to have the opposite effect. He further thinks with how much Rokudo struggles, the more determined Himawari will be to leave Rokudo. Doji says to Rokudo that his passion has gotten him out of tough spots before, but it won't matter if he can't beat him. He punches Rokudo to the ground. Rokudo thinks to himself how he can never win in a fight and there is nothing else that he hates more than violence. Mother Teresa would be proud. But he finally finds something he hates more than violence, which is Matsugamiya Doji. Rokudo screams to Doji that he hates him and punches Doji. Rokudo has officially reached GOAT status. Otoheim and Himawari both gasped at Rokudo punching Doji. Rokudo tells Doji how pissed off he is at Doji for pushing Himawari to be more violent. He screams and tries to punch Doji once more, but Doji laughs at this and punches Rokudo in the stomach again. Rokudo falls to the ground and says to Doji how he thought they were friends. Doji says that he doesn't have friends and he is nothing like Rokudo. He says that this also applies to Himawari. Rokudo gets up again and swings at Doji, but Doji forces him onto the ground face first. Rokudo gets up again because he's him. Doji, seeing this, says that he's never seen anyone as persistent as Rokudo. Rokudo starts biting his arm. Doji says to Rokudo to be an animal now. Doji then grabs a hold of Rokudo's arm and is about to break it. Rokudo thinks to himself how he wants Himawari to stay back and not interfere, and then backup arrives just in time. Reino pushes Doji off Rokudo. Reino, the colonel and chief are here to help Rokudo, and more reinforcements arrive to help Rokudo. Linuma, Himeno, Asanada and Tsubaki join as well. The colonel reminds Rokudo that everything he has done up until now has added up to his strength, and it's time they all fought back together. They all screamed in unison that they were Rokudo's strength. Doji finds out that no one is coming to help assist him, so he takes off his jacket and tells everyone that he will take down everyone all by himself. It turns into an all-out brawl and everyone rushes him one by one and gets destroyed. He tells everyone that all he needs is himself and Himawari Rana. Tsubaki questions him on why he needs Himawari when he is already this powerful. He responds that he needs strong people on his side. He says that he used to be bullied and he also used to hide in bathrooms from bullies. In his flashback, he figures out how to use people to his advantage and become powerful. But he asks himself what would make him happy. He's scared of Himawari Rana destroying the old Onishima Union and decides to make a new and improved one with stronger allies. Doji later finds out that Himawari is alive and wants her on his side. Doji asks Rokudo how he can give her what she wants and make her happy. Doji walks up to Rokudo and grabs him and says to him that Himawari belongs to him. Rokudo tells Doji that Himawari has a kind that Doji doesn't know about, and Doji strangles him even more and questions him about where could he get an idea like that. Rokudo tells Doji that Himawari never used her wooden sword against Otohime in their fight because that wooden sword is a symbol of friendship between Otohime and Himawari. Rokudo further says that Himawari doesn't realize it, but she has kindness in her heart. Otohime walks up to Himawari and asks her why she fell for Rokudo. Doji starts beating everyone again. While everyone else is trying to stop Doji, Otohime is trying to make Himawari realize that everything Rokudo did was for her sake. The gang keeps getting back up no matter how many times Doji punches them down. The gang finished Elden Ring. Doji is now starting to get scared from their courage of never backing down. The gang all rush him while he starts walking backward in fear. Doji realized that the person who supplied all this courage in the first place was none other than Rokudo. Before the gang can reach him, Himawari Rana stands between the gang and Doji. Himawari then walks up to Rokudo and apologizes. She says to him that she likes violence and cares about nobody but him. She says that if she stays by Rokudo's side, she could become the kind of person who wouldn't hurt him. She goes down on her knees and asks Rokudo to let her be with him again. The gang is happy. Rokudo gives her hairband back to her and tells her she won't regret it. Doji is in shock that he lost against Himawari and her gang. Doji's goons came back and asked Doji what had happened. Doji, in a fit of rage, told them to get lost, but the goons reassured him that they were not going anywhere and were staying with him till the end. Doji is happy hearing this and tells his gang to regroup and leaves Rokudo and his gang. Rokudo is seen going back to his school to be a part of the play in his school festival. Rokudo and the gang finally got to experience their school play and lived happily ever after. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed our video. Give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more fantastic and steamy content.